We're taking McKenna backstage into the photography collection, where she's about to see some original accounts of the world's most famous ill-fated voyage.
So what I have here is a very old newspaper from April 27th, 1912.
Shannon Parrish curates the photography collection.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing.
It's an original newspaper account of the Titanic tragedy.
Oh, there's the captain.
And there's the captain.
Wow.
These illustrations were made from photographs taken by a young woman named Bernice Palmer. She was using this Kodak Brownie camera.
What's interesting about 1912 and cameras is that it's the height of Kodak marketing, in which they had a marketing campaign called the Kodak Girl. So they were specifically targeting young women and trying to get them involved in amateur photography. And Bernice totally fit that market demographic. So we're really lucky in some ways that it worked out, because we have these photographs.
Bernice was a passenger aboard the Carpathia when it received a distress signal from the Titanic. It was just after midnight on April 15, 1912. When it arrived at the scene, little but the icy water and the passengers lucky enough to get a place in the lifeboat remained. Of the over 2,200 people on board, only 705 survived. And Bernice was there to capture the survivors' first morning aboard the rescue ship.
This is the Carpathia crew, and then here's one of the sailors. It's kind of out of focus, isn't it?
That mustache.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a very sad event, but it is so interesting.
These are some of the survivors, and they're in borrowed clothes.
Giant overcoat, probably from a man.
Yeah, way too big for her.
Kind of a smile, too.
It's like, what do you do? I mean, I don't know how.
How do you react after that?
Exactly.
It's probably exhaustion, too much, it's too much for the senses, it's an overload.
So you can imagine that Bernice was this 18-year-old. She wakes up, there are all these people, she learns what's happened. The ship, once it got all the passengers on, made another pass over where the Titanic went down. And she writes that was the moment when she really understood how big this story was. And so here you see, that's the iceberg. Oh, wow. And what I think is so interesting is that she's captured the lifeboats from her own ship. So you have to wonder, is she thinking about what would happen if it was our ship that had hit those icebergs? And then here are the photographs of the icebergs themselves.
Those are giant.
Yeah, they are huge. You can see all of the ice that's in the water. And she writes about being able to see deck chairs still floating.
It's clear from Bernice's own words that the experience left a deep impression. It was then when I realized the terrible disaster which had happened to such a great number of our humanity. There was much more that I will never forget.
This is the debris field.
Wow, so the Titanic is probably just underneath the water surface, well, a couple miles down.
So the Titanic is there, the people who died are there, the band that went down playing is there, all those people in third class.
Wow.
This is just hours after such a horrible tragedy.
All of these are just amazing, the detail, and I can't even imagine what it would be like to be there and experience something like this.
When the Carpathia returned, there were lots of newspaper people who were hanging around. They had heard that Bernice had taken photographs, and there were actually very few cameras on board. And so this newspaperman made her a deal. He said, I'll give you $10 for your photographs. And so she made an exchange, and he ran them down and got them developed and put them in the newspaper.
Wow.
She didn't have any concept of what the value was.
Right.
And her father was very angry that they had taken advantage of her.
Sometimes words and photos get lost over the years. This is amazing to have all of these treasures.